WIDA has all sorts of fantastic resources, and one of them today I want to show you is around unit planning. So it'll give you some real questions to ask and consider as you're unit planning at different stages of the unit. We'll dive deeply today into beginning the unit, but you can also check out the rest because, of course, I'll be linking the framework in the description. Here we go.
So here we go. We are on page 11 right now of the WIDA ELD Standards Framework, and just want to share this resource with you. I love it. Beginning of a unit, it has considerations for teachers and for students, and we have an asset-based framework on the left-hand column. So we have linguistic assets that students are bringing into any conversation, any lesson, any unit, experiential assets, cultural assets, and social emotional assets. So just looking at the beginning, and of course you can continue on, there's during and end of the unit considerations as well. But we're thinking about what formal and informal literacy experiences and abilities students already bring, right? In English and in other languages, right? How can you leverage those? Thinking about the prominent key language use of the unit. So again, we're connecting to the framework, right? How do you build on what students can already do? What are the language expectations or goals for students? So getting some clarity there, right? Experiential, right? How do we bring in previous personal connections and experiences, right? This is so important. We often talk about students, quote unquote, not having background knowledge. This is a place to elevate that, to connect, to invite that connection. And that works really well in conversation with families as well. If you're not aware of what students' experiences are, or they're not able to pinpoint it in the moment, like talk to families, share what you're learning in class, invite those conversations to extend to the home. Cultural, right? How do we bring students' cultural identities and cultural backgrounds into the content? Social and emotional, right? What opportunities can we use to connect to, I would even add here, feelings and values, but also students' interests and strengths, right? So we're thinking as teachers, how do we do those connections? We also invite students to engage with some student-facing questions here. So what languages do you prefer to use for speaking or writing to explore the topic? Have you heard about this in any language? What connections do you have, right? What are some of your connections? You're inviting students to share their connections, and you're also kind of pre-planning with the teacher lens of like
resources here, but I love the idea of just picking one or two of those questions, maybe one question from each of the column for teacher lens and one question for each row, and just having those questions nearby as you're unit planning. Love that. Also love the idea of picking one question from each row and kind of having a student one-pager where we're prompting students to make those connections and facilitate the connections of the background experience and assets and how they are bridging to the content. I'm very into the idea of increasing student independence in their learning process, and this is a great way to do it. What a beautiful resource.